here to help you with breeze, planting seeds and teaching skills. Teachers turn schoolyards to dreams. Who hates school gardens with ease?
What's the easiest and most productive way to grow a school garden? I'll tell you in this episode. You're listening to School Gardens with Ease podcast. I'm your host, Leila Mireskandari, and this is episode 67. Excitement is in the air as we are doing the behind the scenes of our annual School Gardens with Ease free webinar. If you've been following my work in the past few years, you'd know that running this webinar this year at this time is actually a little bit earlier than previous years. And that's mainly because feedback has told us that you need the inspiration, the knowledge, and the help right around now. This is when you start thinking about school gardens, or when you should be actually. Later is a little bit too late to plan. This is when parent councils start budgeting for projects. Grant applications need a bit of planning and time to be considered, all of that. I've heard enough of you say, I wish I heard this advice earlier in the school year before we did all the planning for the year. And now I know that I should give this advice away sooner in the school year. So here we go. I've recorded the webinar and we are now putting together the registration page and all the, reminder emails to, for the date and the time and the attendance, the emails to share the recording with the participants, the slide deck, etc., etc. It is a lot of systems to set up and a lot of work to do. And the webinar is free, and we do it because we know how impactful this webinar is. Even those who have joined our programs still tune into the free webinar every year because they love the repeat of the advice and the reminder of the basics. As an educator, you know how learning works. Sometimes you need to hear something 7 times or more for it to actually sink in. Especially the type of guidance that we give on this webinar, because it goes against the grains a little bit. I mean, actually a lot. So yeah, it takes a few times of, repeating and hearing out. So if you've been on this webinar in the previous years, tune in again. I'm sure that you're going to find a few new things that you hear this time around. On this webinar, I share with you the 2-phase plan to growing the school garden of your dreams with ease. So that's what's in store for you soon, in case you were wondering. And before I get into the topic of today, I need to quickly remind you that the Doors to the Oasis Fall and Winter program that I've talked about before will close at the end of October. That's less than 2 weeks from the time that I'm recording this podcast episode. So if you've been looking into it, make sure that you join before the deadline. I've talked about it in the previous episodes, but I will also, put down the link in the show notes of this one so that you don't have to, go and find it in the other episodes or go into your emails to find it. None of that. Okay. So it's down below in the show notes. Okay. Now let's get into today's topic. What's the easiest and most productive way to grow a school garden? Before I give you my answer, let me tell you a story. It's relevant, I promise. Just bear with me. There once was a mom of a 6-year-old and a newborn baby girl. One night on her maternity leave, she was holding her baby on one arm to put her to sleep, after a midnight feeding, going back and forth on the gliding chair while scrolling through her Facebook feed with her other arm. Killing time, essentially. When suddenly a video caught her eyes. This was a video of Bill Mollison, the father of permaculture. Back then, she didn't know him. She hadn't even heard the word permaculture. No idea, no clue. But for some reason, she felt called to watch that video. Here was Bill outside in his garden, holding a newspaper, reading it essentially open in front of his face. Then he closed it and said, Sometimes I get tired of bad news, and I would like to turn that into good news. Then he puts the newspaper on a pile of straw, puts a potato in the middle, covers it with more straw, and says, in about 5 weeks' time, there will be a new set of potatoes growing here, and to me, that's good news. And in that moment, the mom of our story had to pause the video to manage the tears coming down her face before she could watch any more of the video. She looked at her baby in her arms, thought of her older daughter who was sleeping in the other room, and remembered all the bad news and the sad news she had heard in her lifetime. A flashback of her childhood in the Middle East, civic unrests, a revolution, 8 years of war, then the aftermath of war, oppression, more civil unrests, falling in love, getting married. Well, this was the good part of her story. Her immigration to Canada, and more bad news coming not only from her home country, but from all over the world. And even though her family was never poor, thank God, poverty and hunger was always an important theme in all the bad news that she could hear. She thought to herself, wouldn't it be really nice if she could turn all the bad news into good news? What if growing food was really that easy? What if she was lied to all her life? What if we all could grow at least some of our food in our own backyards? How many people would no longer go hungry? How many people would turn the bad news of their lives into good news in their own backyards? How many children will grow up with hope rather than feeling powerless? If growing our food really is that easy, why didn't she know about this? And worse, why isn't this being taught at school to her daughter? And if they didn't teach this, someone should. You see, after a lifetime of exposure to the worst news around the world and watching activists trying to change the world and sacrificing their lives for important causes, she was convinced that there was no hope to make things better for humanity. That all one person can do is ignore the sad realities, accept there's nothing they could do, and take good care of themselves and their little family. She was not the activist type, you see. She didn't want to sacrifice a lot to change the world. She just wanted a little good world for her and her little family. That's all she wanted. But she knew no one lives in isolation. No one can live in a bubble. That we are all connected, that the suffering of one person has a ripple effect on all. The thought of changing the world from the comfort of her own backyard without any sacrifices, while she got rewarded with fresh food, was truly an appealing dream. But was this only a dream? Was Bill just a romantic or even a con man? She had to know. So she wiped her tears and got back to the video. And then another. And then books and articles. Then she started growing her own food in her own backyard to test this permaculture thing out for herself. And oh my, the permaculture promise was real. It really was easy to grow her own food. If and only if she knew how to work with nature as opposed to against it, something that everyone else was doing in their conventional gardens. She began to understand why everyone thinks growing food is hard and why people don't do it. It was because of all the tilling and spraying and weeding and monoculture planting and obsessive cleaning and bad timing and all in all the fighting they did with nature. After a few years, her gardens not only produced an insane amount of food, but were easy, refreshing, beautiful, and truly rewarding. It got to a point that she couldn't keep this to herself. The next generation has to know this, she thought. Teachers don't teach this because they don't know it themselves. If only they knew how easy and rewarding this could be. I should help them grow school gardens, she thought. Should help them teach this skill, this important life skill to the next generation. And that's when all the trouble started. You see, when a software developer decides to jump into the world of education, she is up for a few reality checks and a very difficult journey. The very first lesson she had to learn the hard way was that school gardens are not the same as home gardens at all. Duh, of course, right? Everyone knows that, you're thinking. So, if growing food in her backyard was easy, that didn't mean it was going to be easy in a schoolyard. And it wasn't. The second lesson she had to learn the hard way was that school gardens and community gardens are not the same either. And this was a mistake she quickly realized everyone else was making too. All parents, teachers, and schools were making this mistake. They all were trying to grow a school garden like they would grow a community garden and were wondering why things are so hard. She started to realize there are two major contributors to the failure of school gardens. One was, of course, the fact that everyone was trying to grow a conventional garden that was, in constant fight with Mama Nature instead of, the permaculture way. But also, everyone got the logistics wrong. And how did she know that? By growing school gardens and growing school gardens in every which way and in every which space and with every which group. And she did it for years and years and years. She grew school gardens as a vendor for an after-school program at first. She grew school gardens as a one-time planting event with the community, as a parent-led program, as a teacher-led program in gardening and lunchtime clubs, in daycare summer programs, as in-school programs alongside teachers, as a vendor. You name it, she tried it. And that's how she realized or figured out that the way to grow a producing, productive, educational, and successful school garden that's easily sustained for years and years and years to come is getting two things right. Number one, the physical garden should be grown permaculture style while working with nature and not against it. And second, we should get the logistics right. Don't mistake it with a home garden, a community garden, a farm, or any other type of garden. That means treating it as an educational tool. Make it 100% student-powered and teacher-led. Design it, build it, grow it, and harvest from it 100% during the school and within the daily instructional time, and teach in it. Truly teach in it. Teach science, math, language arts, life skills, geography, social studies, community, collaboration, teamwork, initiative, organization, health. I can go on and on and on and on. Really teach in it. And that's how you do it. By now, I'm sure you guessed who the mom in our story was. Yeah, yours truly. And I'm sure you can guess that I told you the long story as short as possible. Skipped all the hard times and failures, the frustrations, the sleepless nights, the late nights researching, the lesson plan writings and rewritings and fine-tuning and rewritings, the trials and errors, the going back to school while raising two kids, all of that. I did all that for over a decade so that you don't have to. Told you what you need to do in this episode, and I will tell you how on the School Gardens with Ease free webinar that's coming up soon. We will open registration for it next week. Keep an eye out for it. You don't want to miss it. But the story is not all filled with hardship. It's also full of some of the best memories and moments of my life. When I caught the students living and experiencing their gardens, when I saw the spark of light bulbs in the students' eyes, when I witnessed kids thoroughly enjoying building their own first garden together, when they asked the most interesting questions, when the most challenging students inside the four walls came to life, spread their wings, and became the most successful in the garden, when the teachers sent me pictures of their gardens, their produce, their programs, When principals call back again and again and again, year after year, to bring me in or enroll their teachers into my programs simply because they saw results. When the teachers say things like, my garden is an integral part of my program, I can't imagine teaching without it. Those were the moments that made it and continue to make it all worth it. This story is nowhere near the end. In fact, it has gotten to the very good part at this point. The struggle is finished. You're here for the good part. Watch out for the release of the free School Gardens with Ease webinar. Join this growing community of garden educators. Be part of this story, and let's change the world one school garden at a time with ease and tons of fun. I'll talk to you next week in another episode. You've listened to the entire episode, and for that, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And please share this episode with other teachers who might be interested in this topic. See you next week for a new episode.